Thank you, Jim. Love Supreme is a sprawling composition released by John Coltrane in 1965. It's over 33 minutes long and divided into 4 parts: acknowledgement, resolution, pursuance, and psalm. This past week, I asked Jim to find 2 minutes of this piece that is meditative and serves the purpose of a worship service. And I think he did a wonderful job. What I required of this song and of Jim is often what we request of love and God. Can it be served in a manageable bit? A chocolate candy Valentine, bread and wine, a candlelight shining. But love and God are not always served in manageable bits. A Love Supreme, and I encourage you to listen to it after the service, is music with passages that make no sense. And then once you think you're following it, one gets lost again. It grooves, it meanders, it screeches. It is a hero's journey overcoming obstacles as a journey towards home. This trippy, nebulous quality appealed to the avant-garde jazz aficionados and also to the hippies who were just kind of coming into their own. In the liner notes of the album, he writes a psalm, which has many conventional lines of praise to God. And amongst all these flowery expressions are 2 lines, each of 2 words. God is, God loves. In the same liner notes, in a letter to the listener, Coltrane declares that God is love supreme. This piece is mostly without words, only the chanting of a love supreme, a love supreme, a love supreme. At the end of the first part, this music is to be experienced rather than understood. Throughout human history, humans have experienced love and God, and it seems that words often get in the way. Love is broadly defined from trite candy hearts to deep grieving pain. God has been described in every range of genders, formless or with many arms and legs, high above or deep within. Words merely point to truth. I have a lifetime of songs and sermons trying to find the target. And once again today I take aim, a befuddled Cupid hoping that my arrow will graze Amazing Grace. A notion I learned about love in Sunday school as a child was John 3:14. God so loved the world that he gave his only son. It was simple. But this became more complex as it was explained to me. God gave his Son to be sacrificed, which doesn't seem very loving towards the Son. Then it was explained that the Son was really God, which was hard to comprehend. And then if the Son was really God, who was the sacrifice to? If it was to God, the God was sacrificing himself to himself, but disguised as a son to fool himself. Or if it was to a devil, then God was being hostage and they needed to fake the devil out by disguising himself as a son. This is beginning to feel like unintelligible jazz to me. But a passage from the first letter of John continues the riff found in the Gospel of John, but for me resolves in a more satisfying manner. Dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God. Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love. Dear friends, since God so loved us, we also ought to love one another. No one has ever seen God. But if we love one another, God lives in us and his love is made complete in us. If we love one another, God lives in us. It is the kernel of truth that resounds in me. The thunder of heaven is echoed in my beating heart, much like the timpani concluding Coltrane's Love Supreme. Coltrane was raised in High Point, North Carolina. He was raised in the African Methodist Episcopal Church, in which his grandfather was a minister. But Coltrane also read the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita, and Buddhist texts. He was looking for a universal love supreme. Religions have so many variations between each other and within each religion. But one can find a common theme of love if one is looking or listening for that. In the 7th surah of the Quran, it says, "My mercy embraces all things." In the Gandal Yuha Sutra of Buddhism, it says, "The great compassionate heart is the essence of Buddhism." In the Hindu Bhagavad Gita, it's written, "To love is to know me, my innermost nature, the truth that I am." And from the Shinto tradition, in the Oracle of the Kami, which also means God, of Sumiyoshi, "I have no corporal existence, but universal benevolence is my divine body." Humanists reject the usefulness of God language, but they have kept the idea of love. Betty Chambers, president of the American Humanist Association from 1973 to 79, wrote, "Humanism is the light of my life and the fire in my soul. It is the deep felt conviction in every fiber of my being that human love is a power far transcending the relentless onward rush of our largely deterministic cosmos. All human life must seek a reason for existence within the bounds of an uncaring physical world. It is love, coupled with empathy, democracy, and commitment to selfless service, which undergirds the faith of a humanist. Again, I say these words like God and love have been used in so many ways they seem to have lost all meaning. Love is used to describe selfish desire. I love is a substitute for saying it pleases me. Likewise, God is used to describe selfish motivation. Whenever anyone says, God welcomes me into heaven but is sending you to hell, that God is being used as a tool for self-promotion. God language becomes a way to say, I am lovable, but you are not. God and love can both be reduced to idolatry. The classic idolatry is a statue of God, and it becomes a substitute for the glory of God. God is reduced so that we can manipulate it, put it on a shelf, and only look at it whenever we're feeling in the mood. God is reduced to something that we control rather than being willing to be changed by God. Likewise, we can try to manipulate love rather than be changed by it. Examples are as crass as, I paid for this nice dinner, now you must go to bed with me. Or, I carried you for 9 months, the least you could do is call me once in a while. Or, this diamond ring proves I love you. Or, a way to a man's heart is through his stomach. In addition to these personal manipulations, we have societal idolatries. Some love the flag of the USA more than they love the people. Some place their hand on their heart when they hear the national anthem. This can be a genuine expression of gratitude for what this country has blessed one with. But once standing with your hand on your heart becomes mandatory, it ceases to be love. Love can also be an idol in our society. Celebrities are idolized. A celebrity wedding is a vast extravaganza and becomes the goal for young couples who spend more effort on the wedding than they do on the marriage. It's easier to have a perfect fantasy day than to struggle through real life. And romantic movies usually end when the couple finally fall in love, as if love is an object that can be obtained. It does not reflect the work of love as something that is shared. Worship of God, and even in UU fellowships, can be dependent on the objects of love. A church is not a building, it is the people gathered in spirit. We have been forced to learn this past year when we have not been able to gather in person. A building is a useful tool for gathering, but human connection is much deeper. I miss hugs. But hugs are not the only ritual of love. Love does not disappear when hugs go away. We have to come up with other ways to communicate love. Idols are the objects of love and God. They are nouns, not verbs. They are things, not actions. They are representatives of what one experiences, but they are not the experience itself. We should not worship love. Instead, we should be loving. We should not worship God. Instead, we should be godly. We should be good. God and love are actions, not objects to be worshipped. Mary Daly, in her book Beyond God the Father, writes, "Why indeed must God be a noun? Why not a verb, the most active and dynamic of all?" And also love. Love should be a verb of action, not some ideal that is worshipped. This was reinforced in me this Saturday when I attended the annual Historic Thousands on K Street March. Well, because of COVID, it did not occur this year on K Street in Raleigh, North Carolina, our state capital. I did not have to jostle with thousands on this street. I did not have to put up with the cold and the rain. I did not have to drive or take a crowded bus. I got to listen to the Reverend William Barber from the warmth and comfort of my bed. I have seen Reverend Barber speak many times, and if you have the opportunity, I think you should take it. I've been on stage with him in Winston-Salem and in Indianapolis, and I have watched him in the pulpit, sitting only feet away, and I have seen him heat up a street on a cold February day. But in this virtual setting, all that heat was gone. He still wore a robe, and he spoke from a pulpit. But the glory of black preaching was not on display. There was no shaking and shouting, because shouting and shaking is not just a show for him. It is an interaction with the crowd that conveys the message, but it's not the message itself. And so without a crowd in the room, he spoke his truth quietly, without the fireworks of a gospel show. He said, "We have love work to do." I missed the cadences and the call and response and the swirl of energy of other times I heard him preach. But I heard his message. We have love work to do. And as I've typed this sermon, I typed love work as a single word, because love is inextricably tied to work. Love work. What is the love work that you are called to do? What is your political love work? What is your professional love work? What love work will you do with your family and friends? And what love work do you need to do with yourself? To guide myself in the love work I need to do, I reflect upon 1 Corinthians 3, 4 through 8. Anyone who's attended a wedding has heard these words. Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful. It is not arrogant or rude. Love does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrong, but rejoices in the right. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love is patient and kind. That has been very difficult for me this past year. With disease and the politics, I find myself raging. And politically, I must be tied to a process. I will not win every battle, and victory will never be as sweet as anticipated. Where do I find kindness and patience? I must remember that it is not weakness. It is simply doing unto others as I would like done to me. And so my love cannot be jealous or boastful. Like, how do they get away with that stuff? It is not arrogant or rude. Because when somebody has approached me with arrogance and rudeness and boasting, it has never convinced me that they were right. And I doubt that my arrogance, anger, irritability, rudeness will not convince anybody that they are wrong. And this is true of my interpersonal relationships. And also, I must find a way to be kind to myself. For there are many faults I can point to. And without kindness, I will never find the strengths upon which I can build. I need to be kind and patient with myself so I have the strength to do my love work. Love is not irritable or resentful. Wow. Lately, I have been ready to pounce on every possible slight. I have witnessed so much evil that now I look for it everywhere. And this irritability does harm to my own health. It robs me of peace. When I am resentful, I do not want to do unto others as I want done to me. I want to do unto others as I have been done to. I want to insult those who have insulted me. I get focused on vengeance rather than justice. When I am resentful, I want to send 45% of America to jail. But I need the patience to weed out the best solution for each individual. Justice for the perpetrators, education for the misinformed, compassion for the disillusioned, and hope for the hopeless. I must not respond to the frenzy of the mob with a frenzy of my own. Love work does not rejoice in wrong, but rejoices in good. Part of my love work is to look for all the good things that are happening and promote them. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. These sentences remind me that love is work. We have to believe that politics, economics, and people can get better, then persevere as we pursue it. The words love and God are hard to define, but they are known through work. So I conclude with words from the book of James. But be doers of the words, and not hearers only, deceiving yourself. For if anyone is a hearer of the word but not a doer, they are like a person who observes their natural face in the mirror. For they observe themselves and go away and at once forget what they are like. But one who looks into perfect law, the law of liberty, and perseveres, being no hearer that forgets, but a doer that acts, one shall be blessed in the doing. May we bless and be blessed. Loving ourselves gives us the strength to love others. To help us in this love work, Molly Nasik will now give a guided meditation.
Valentine's Day. What could be better than a meditation on love? A long, long time ago, 50 years,